Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. I hope all that y'all had a great weekend. I had a great weekend. And thanks to everybody who talked about your favorite part of the weekend. So, good morning. Lauren and Dan is here. I see Grant and Shauna are here. And Jana is here as well. What a wonderful crew we have. All super cool people. And all of us, I think, spent our weekend in pretty different places. Yeah, dance parties with special peeps. Amen, Janet. That is a wonderful way to spend the weekend. Let's see here. Lauren also spent the weekend dancing on Friday and Saturday night. It is indeed therapeutic. I partied so hard on Saturday night. It was glorious. And many of you know, actually, I think all of you know, we had probably one of the biggest giveaway parties of the year last weekend, and there were a real lot of people who came to do that, to make that happen. And to answer your question, Grant, you didn't miss Nightfall last night. I just was busy and wasn't able to do it, so I had announced that on Friday, and yeah, so I was not able to make a Nightfall last night. Anyways, yeah, it was an incredible weekend. Big thanks to all the volunteers that made it happen. Big thanks to Buddy for making it happen, to Beth for making it happen. There were a lot of people behind the scenes who really who did a ton of work to basically make that event go off without a hitch, and it was a ton of fun. So yeah, my favorite part of the weekend was probably the party on Saturday night. Just me and 100 of my closest friends took over a nightclub, and it was an absolute blast. So really appreciate it. And then I got a really great night's sleep that night too. I woke up at like 9 o'clock the next morning feeling amazing. So you know what? There's something to be said for partying that hard and then waking up the next morning and feeling awesome. Anyways, it has indeed been a fantastic weekend. But we are here today. It is a Monday. It is time for us to get started on our week, and we're going to say some good stuff about us. And we're going to do that with my I am cards. I have another 5 brand new ones this week to debut. So this will be the first time anybody sees them. And just like before, I'm just going to ask you if you are the affirmation of the card. And we will say out loud together, I am that affirmation. As we say this out loud together, as we write it down in the comments, and as we affirm it for each other, we are making it true for us. Now, I was on the internet the other day, and somebody had made a post, and they basically were talking about what they wanted. And they said, I want this, and I want that, and I want the other thing. And the language there, the language of I want, assumes that I don't have. Things that I want, things that are wanting in my life, are things that I don't have and don't really have any expectation of how I can get them. But when we affirm that we are those things, then we already have them. We can recognize that our wanting is a feeling, and a feeling state, as Brenda Jean says, is temporary. Whereas a being state, a present, personal, singular form of to be, we are being, that is eternal. So let's talk about the eternal characteristics that are inside of us by saying that today, I am, not that one, misclicked. I am humble. I am humble. I maintain a beginner's attitude. So I am humble. I maintain a beginner's attitude. Are you humble? You are humble. You maintain a beginner's attitude. So, I am humble today. I'm going to write that down in the comments. I'm going to say that I am humble. I maintain a beginner's attitude. Boom. Indeed, we are a bunch of humble people. The imagery that I chose for this humble is a white belt with a white gi with a white belt on it, a white karate uniform with a white belt. It takes a certain level of humility to go into martial arts and put on that white belt, and to recognize that we are a beginner at something. So if anybody has ever done martial arts, you know that eventually you progress through a belt system. Usually goes like a white, orange, yellow, green, blue, red, and something like that. And eventually you get to a black belt, and the black belt is considered to be a master at it. But when you get to having a black belt, that's when you really realize the truth. And the black belt is really the beginner's belt. Everything else before the black belt is training. The black belt is a beginner's belt. The black belt is the license to learn. I remember that when I soloed an airplane the very first time, and I successfully put it back down on the ground, and I took it back to the hangar, and of course my instructor's proud of me. But as he's signing off my logbook to say that I was okay to go and rent an airplane on my own and go and practice what I wanted to practice, whatever I felt necessary to practice, he looked at me and he said, Paul, this signature that I'm giving you is your permission slip to learn. It's your permission slip to learn. You're going to go up there in an airplane and you may very well kill yourself in that airplane if you're not careful or if you do stupid things. He said, and I sincerely hope that your learning is not of the fatal variety. And boy, did that hit home with me, because I realized that I had taken a machine up to 1,500 feet in the air, and that any number of things could have gone wrong with the machine or with my ability to pilot it that would have ended my life. And it gave me this huge sense of humility. I was like, wait a minute, wow, I was humbled by that, because I realized, first of all, that I was trusted with such a machine. Wow, I mean, airplanes aren't cheap, and my life is priceless. But also that I had a responsibility, that soloing, that taking the airplane up in the air by myself, that was not the end goal. That getting it up into the air isn't the end goal. It's simply a process of lifelong learning. And each and every one of us have that ability today to be in that process of lifelong learning, to have a beginner's attitude every time that we do something, even something that we're good at. When I do the wake-up call every morning, I do it with a beginner's attitude. I don't take for granted anything that happens on this call, because I know that in many cases, something is going to go wrong, and I have to just sort of like mitigate that and deal with that. Even to the fact that I misclicked a card earlier today. It happens. I'm a beginner. I will always be a beginner at this. And because I will always be a beginner at it, that is what allows me to have the opportunity to be a master at it, to be good at it. To be good at anything, we have to suck at it. And even the people who are the best still make mistakes occasionally. And so we have to remain humble about it, because the second that we start thinking that we know everything about everything, that's the second that we are humbled by the things that we're trying to do. So we are humble and we maintain a beginner's attitude. And so let's do that. The week is beginning. We have a whole week ahead of us of interacting with other people, and perhaps we are going off to jobs. Perhaps we are making our hobbies go forward. Perhaps we have other projects that we don't know exactly how we're going to get them done. Well, that's okay. Let's just maintain a beginner's attitude. Let's be open to new information. Let's try the information from the people that have done it already and see if it works, even if we don't intuitively think that it will. And as we do that, as we maintain that beginner's attitude, then we find that we're going to just continue to improve on those basics. I was practicing banjo rolls yesterday. So for those of you who don't know, a banjo roll is the most essential, or the elementary part of playing a banjo. It's for me, I'm a left-handed person, so it's the way the left hand plucks the strings in a certain pattern. And banjo rolls are just the most basic part of it. But that's where I am. I'm learning the most basic part of it so that I can learn a better part of it. And as I do it, it doesn't sound particularly good to me, but that's because I recognize all the times that I make a mistake, that the people who listen to it think it sounds great. But as they were talking to me about that, I was reminded of this story from Yo-Yo Ma. So Yo-Yo Ma is an eminent cellist. And some interviewer was asking Yo-Yo Ma, they said, how do you practice? How does the most acclaimed cellist in the world practice? Like, what complex stuff do you do? And Yo-Yo Ma says, well, I do the arpeggios, which is the most basic part of playing a cello. It's the first thing that any student learns, is how to just go up and down on the strings, and just to know where they are. And the interviewer said, wow, the arpeggios, that's so basic. You don't have any super complex practice thing that you do in order to make your fingers so deft? And Yo-Yo Ma had this amazing response for that. He said, if I stop practicing for one day, I will notice. And if I start practicing these basic things for 1 week, my audience will notice. And if I stop practicing for 2 weeks, everybody will notice. And it really struck me as just how essential that the basic parts of what we do are. And so we consistently have to be aware that we're doing them at a high level of excellence. And so today, let's focus on the simple stuff. Let's focus on the most basic elements of what we do. And as we do that, we find that mastery comes easily to us because we are humble enough to realize that we are always a beginner. And that's the message for today. I want to thank you guys all for coming by and maintaining a beginner's attitude on this show, because as we say I am statements, as we affirm who we are and we affirm the very essence of our being, we are maintaining a beginner's attitude, because I am is one of the very first concepts that we come across as we even learn language. When we start realizing that we are individuals, that we have our own feelings, that we have our own mental states, when we realize that, that's when that's when we start to form these I am statements. And that is, incidentally, when we start to confuse how we feel with who we are. And so let's remove that confusion. Let's disentangle that and remain as beginners in our hearts. I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing this broadcast and for helping me to make this something awesome. You guys are amazing. You're the reason that I do this, even though oftentimes I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to anybody else. So today I am committed to being a beginner and to recognize that the most basic elements of everything that I do are the parts that make me good at it. So you guys are amazing. Thank you for being here. I love you. I care about you. I will talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we will continue to reiterate these truths about ourselves. Aloha from paradise.